The Great Southern Ocean, a realm of ice and profound blue, is sending a distress signal that reverberates across the globe. For millennia, this remote and seemingly untouchable wilderness has served as a critical regulator of our planet's climate and a sanctuary for some of its most magnificent inhabitants. Today, however, Antarctica is no longer isolated from the pressures of the modern world. It has become a front line in the battle for our planet's future, a place where the consequences of human activity are starkly and terrifyingly visible. The health of this blue heart is intrinsically linked to the health of the entire global ocean system, and what happens here will ultimately affect every one of us, no matter how far away we live. The changes are happening faster than we ever predicted. The urgency of this crisis cannot be overstated. We are witnessing an ecosystem under severe and mounting stress, pushed to its limits by a combination of historical exploitation and present-day environmental degradation. The very ice that defines this continent is disappearing at an alarming rate. In 2023, Antarctic sea ice coverage shrank to the lowest level ever recorded, a catastrophic development for the countless species that depend on it for their survival. This is not a distant, abstract problem for future generations to solve. It is a clear and present danger unfolding before our very eyes. The silent, frozen continent is now screaming a warning, and we must listen before its vibrant, complex web of life collapses entirely. The implications of this environmental collapse extend far beyond the icy shores of Antarctica. The Southern Ocean is a powerful engine in the global climate system, absorbing vast amounts of heat and carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. As its waters warm and its chemistry changes, its ability to perform this vital function is diminished, creating a dangerous feedback loop that accelerates global warming. The fate of Antarctic whales, from the colossal blue whale to the highly intelligent pack ice killer whale, serves as a powerful indicator of the ocean's overall health. Their struggle is our struggle, and their potential demise is a grim forecast for the stability of our shared planetary home. We are connected to Antarctica in ways we are only just beginning to fully comprehend. Therefore, the battle to save Antarctica is not merely about preserving a remote and beautiful landscape or protecting a single species, however charismatic. It is a fight for the resilience of our entire planet. The Southern Ocean represents one of the last great wildernesses on Earth, a living laboratory that holds secrets to the origins of life and the functioning of our world. To allow this blue heart to fail would be an act of profound and irreversible self-harm. The time for passive observation has long since passed. The crisis in Antarctica demands immediate, decisive, and global action. A collective effort to mend what we have broken and to safeguard the future for all life, both on land and in the deep. The current threats facing Antarctic whales are deeply rooted in a brutal history of industrial-scale slaughter. For much of the 20th century, the Southern Ocean was not a sanctuary but a killing field, where human greed and technological might were unleashed upon the world's largest creatures with devastating efficiency. From 1904 onwards, factory fleets, many hailing from ports like Edinburgh, descended upon these waters, transforming them into an abattoir. The island of South Georgia, a British territory, became a grim epicenter of this industry. Its shores were lined with processing stations that rendered the bodies of an estimated 176,000 whales into oil, meat, and bone meal. This was not a hunt. It was a war waged against giants. The scale of the destruction was almost unimaginable, driven by a relentless, militarized approach. Historian Dan Snow aptly described the era as one where humanity was waging war on these whales, utilizing repurposed World War II ships, advanced radar systems, and explosive harpoons to ensure no whale could escape. The efficiency of these operations was matched only by their cruelty. A whaler's account, preserved in the Whalers Memory Bank project launched in 2025, captures the grim reality. You kept going, you never stopped, until the whales had disappeared. This relentless pursuit pushed species after species to the brink of extinction, fundamentally altering the ecological balance of the Southern Ocean in ways we are still struggling to understand. The economic engine of this industry was fueled by a global demand for whale products, but its unsustainability was its ultimate undoing. By the early 1960s, the whale populations had been so thoroughly decimated that the industry could no longer support itself. The great fleets of firms like Christian Salvesen found their profits dwindling as the whales they hunted vanished from the seas. In 1963, the last of these major operations ceased, not because of a moral awakening or a newfound respect for these intelligent beings, but because they had simply run out of whales to kill. The silence that fell over the whaling stations of South Georgia was not one of peace, but of absence. Although the era of industrial whaling in Antarctica is over, its shadow looms long and dark. The whale populations that were targeted have been slow to recover, and some may never return to their pre-exploitation numbers. The genetic diversity of these species was irrevocably damaged, leaving them more vulnerable to disease and environmental change. The memory of this slaughter serves as a stark reminder of humanity's capacity for destruction and the profound, lasting impact of short-sighted economic pursuits. The echoes of the harpoon still resonate in the quiet emptiness of the Southern Ocean, a tragic prelude to the new, more insidious threats that whales face today. While the explosive harpoons have fallen silent, a new and perhaps more formidable threat now endangers the whales of Antarctica: the rapid and accelerating loss of their sea ice habitat. Climate change is no longer a future possibility, but a present and devastating reality in the polar regions. The year 2023 marked a terrifying milestone when Antarctic sea ice reached its lowest extent since satellite records began. This dramatic shrinkage of the ice is not just a change in the landscape, it is the unraveling of an entire ecosystem. For the whales that have adapted over millennia to live and hunt in this icy world, the disappearing ice represents a catastrophic loss of their home, their hunting grounds, and their future. The pack ice killer whales, a unique and culturally distinct population numbering only around 100 individuals, are on the front lines of this crisis. These highly specialized predators have developed one of the most sophisticated hunting techniques in the animal kingdom, working together in perfect coordination to create powerful waves that wash their prey, such as Weddell and craybeater seals, off the safety of ice flows. But as the ice flows disappear, so do their hunting opportunities. The very platform that underpins their survival strategy is melting away beneath them. Scientists have observed that this small, vulnerable population is now declining at a shocking rate of 5% per year, a direct consequence of their vanishing world. The crisis extends throughout the food web, creating a cascade of negative effects that impacts all marine life. The loss of sea ice has a direct impact on the krill, the tiny crustaceans that form the foundation of the Antarctic food web. Krill feed on the algae that grows on the underside of the ice, so as the ice diminishes, so does their primary food source. This, in turn, affects the baleen whales, seals, penguins, and fish that depend on massive swarms of krill for their own survival. The entire system is interconnected, and the collapse of one pillar threatens to bring the whole structure crashing down. The modern onslaught is quieter than the whaling ships, but it is no less deadly. This environmental crisis is a direct result of human activity far from Antarctica's shores. The burning of fossil fuels, deforestation, and industrial emissions have pumped greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, trapping heat and driving global temperatures upward. The polar regions are warming at a much faster rate than the rest of the planet, making them canaries in the global coal mine. The silent battle being fought by the whales in Antarctica's blue heart is a reflection of a larger war we have been waging on our planet's climate system. Their struggle for survival is a desperate plea for us to change our course before the damage becomes irreversible for them and for us. To understand what is truly at stake in the Southern Ocean, we must look beyond the ecological data and appreciate the profound intelligence and complex consciousness of the whales themselves. These are not simply large fish or biological resources. They are sentient beings with intricate social lives, advanced communication, and demonstrable problem-solving abilities. Recent scientific expeditions, armed with new technologies like drones and non-invasive monitoring tools, have pulled back the curtain on their hidden world, revealing minds that are as deep and complex as the ocean they inhabit. The pack ice killer whales, in particular, have shown us a level of cognitive sophistication that challenges our very definition of intelligence. Their cooperative hunting strategy is a marvel of tactical planning and execution. To catch a seal resting on an ice floe, a pod of killer whales will coordinate their movements with breathtaking precision. They swim in a tight formation, then dive in unison to create a powerful wave that crashes over the ice, washing the seal into the water. As documented by researchers, this can be a long and arduous process, sometimes requiring up to 18 coordinated attempts to succeed. This behavior is not instinctual. It is a learned skill that requires communication, patience, and a deep understanding of physics. It is a clear demonstration of a collective mind at work, a group of individuals thinking and acting as one. The capacity for learning and cultural transmission within these whale pods is perhaps the most compelling evidence of their intelligence. During a groundbreaking 2025 expedition, scientists documented for the first time adult female orcas actively teaching these complex hunting techniques to their young. This is not mere imitation. It is a deliberate transfer of knowledge from one generation to the next, the very definition of culture. The matriarchs, the oldest and most experienced females, serve as living libraries, holding the collective wisdom of the pod. The survival of the entire family group depends on their ability to pass down this vital information, a process that is strikingly similar to human education. This new understanding forces us to confront difficult ethical questions. If these animals possess culture, if they teach their children, and if they have complex social bonds that can last a lifetime, what right do we have to threaten their existence? The fight to save Antarctic whales is not just an environmental issue, it is a moral one. We are witnessing the potential extinction of not just a species, but of a unique and ancient culture. The loss of these whales would be the loss of a different kind of intelligence, a different way of being in the world. As we learn more about the minds in the deep, our responsibility to protect them becomes ever more profound and undeniable. The social structure of Antarctic whales is the very fabric of their existence, a tightly woven tapestry of family bonds, communication, and shared knowledge that is essential for survival in one of the world's harshest environments. For species like the pack ice killer whale, the family pod is everything. These groups are matriarchal, led by the oldest and most experienced female, and individuals often remain with their birth pod for their entire lives. This creates a stable social unit where deep, long-lasting relationships are formed, and the collective wisdom of generations can be passed down. The health of the pod is paramount, as an individual whale cannot survive for long on its own. The role of the matriarch is absolutely critical. She is the repository of the pod's cultural knowledge, knowing the best hunting grounds, the safest routes through the shifting ice, and the complex vocalizations that bind the group together. Her leadership guides the pod's every move, and her experience is the key to overcoming the daily challenges of life in Antarctica. Recent research has shown that the loss of an experienced matriarch can have devastating consequences, sometimes leading to the collapse of the entire pod. Without her guidance, the younger generations may lack the knowledge needed to hunt effectively or navigate the changing environment, a tragic testament to the importance of these wise elders. Communication is the thread that holds this social fabric together. The first ever recordings of the pack ice killer whale's underwater vocalizations, captured in 2025, revealed a rich and complex language. Scientists were surprised to discover that these whales communicate freely and openly while hunting on the surface, a behavior that differs from other orca populations. Their calls, clicks, and whistles are not just random sounds. They are a sophisticated system for coordinating action, maintaining social cohesion, and reinforcing family bonds. Each pod has its own unique dialect, a vocal signature that distinguishes it from other groups and strengthens its sense of identity. To listen to these sounds is to hear the voice of an ancient culture. The deep emotional lives of these animals are evident in their behavior. They play together, travel together, and grieve together. The loss of a calf or a pod member can elicit profound displays of what can only be described as sorrow. When we consider the threats they face, from the deafening noise of seismic surveys to the loss of their icy home, we must understand that we are not just impacting their physical health. We are disrupting families, shattering cultures, and inflicting psychological stress on highly social and sentient beings. Protecting these whales means protecting their right to live in the complex, interconnected family groups that define them. In the race to save Antarctica's whales, science has become our most powerful tool. The remote and hostile nature of the Southern Ocean has long kept the lives of these animals shrouded in mystery. But, You know, recent technological and methodological breakthroughs are finally allowing us to understand their world in unprecedented detail. The 2025 expedition that produced the film Nature Expedition Killer Whale marked a turning point in our ability to study these elusive creatures. By using state-of-the-art tools like drones and gyro-stabilized cameras, researchers were able to observe the pack ice killer whales from new perspectives without disturbing their natural behavior, providing invaluable insights into their hunting strategies and social dynamics. One of the most significant advances has been in the field of non-invasive research. For the first time, scientists successfully collected and sequenced DNA from whale scat found on ice floes. This seemingly simple act is a revolutionary development. It allows researchers to gather a wealth of information about the whale's health, diet, stress levels, and genetic diversity without ever having to touch or tranquilize an animal. This ethical and effective approach is, honestly, crucial for studying a small and highly vulnerable population like the pack ice killer whales. The data gathered from this genetic analysis provides a vital baseline for monitoring the health of the population as they face the growing pressures of climate change. The ability to record and analyze their underwater vocalizations has also opened a new window into their culture. The discovery that these whales communicate openly while hunting prey on the ice surface was a major revelation, showing how integral communication is to their cooperative strategies. By building a library of their unique calls and dialects, scientists can begin to decipher their language, track the movements of different pods, and understand how information is shared within their society. This acoustic research helps us appreciate them not just as biological specimens, but as complex communicators with a rich cultural heritage that, frankly, deserves protection. These scientific findings are not merely academic exercises. They have profound and urgent implications for conservation. The data showing a 5% annual decline in the pack ice killer whale population is a stark and quantifiable warning that their survival is in jeopardy. The knowledge that their hunting success is directly tied to the availability of sea ice provides a clear link between climate change and their fate. This evidence-based research is essential for informing policy decisions, driving international conservation efforts, and making a compelling case to the public and to governments that immediate action is required. Science gives the whales a voice in our world, a voice we must heed before it is silenced forever. Despite a global moratorium on commercial whaling established in 1986 by the International Whaling Commission, or IWC, the practice has not entirely ceased. A few nations continue to hunt whales, exploiting loopholes and political divisions within the international community. These countries often justify their actions under the guise of scientific research or by citing cultural traditions. But underlying these claims are powerful political and economic interests. The persistence of whaling represents a failure of global governance and a stark reminder that short-term economic gains are still being prioritized over the long-term health of our oceans and the survival of entire species. The political landscape surrounding whaling is fraught with tension. The IWC, the body responsible for regulating the practice, is often deadlocked, with pro-whaling and anti-whaling nations clashing over policy. Pro-whaling nations have historically used their economic influence to garner votes from smaller countries, creating a political stalemate that undermines the Commission's conservation mission. This diplomatic maneuvering prevents the establishment of stronger protections, such as the creation of a South Atlantic whale sanctuary, which has been repeatedly blocked despite widespread support. The result is a fractured and often ineffective international response that allows whaling to continue in certain parts of the world. The economic arguments used to defend whaling often crumble under scrutiny. The global market for whale meat has shrunk dramatically, and the industry is, in many cases, heavily subsidized by governments to remain viable. It is a niche industry propped up by national pride and political interests, rather than genuine market demand. In contrast, the economic value of living whales is immense and growing. The whale-watching industry generates billions of dollars in revenue globally, creating sustainable jobs and providing a powerful economic incentive for conservation. A living whale is worth far more to coastal communities over its lifetime than a dead one is to a whaling fleet for a single season. Ultimately, the continued hunt for whales is driven by a combination of entrenched political interests, nationalist sentiment, and a stubborn refusal to adapt to a changing world. It is a legacy of the old extractive mindset that viewed the ocean as an inexhaustible resource to be plundered. This perspective ignores the overwhelming scientific evidence of whale intelligence, the critical ecological role they play, and the clear economic benefits of conservation. The economics of extinction are a false economy, one that trades a priceless natural heritage for a fleeting and unsustainable profit. To secure the future of whales, we must dismantle these outdated economic and political structures. The fight to protect Antarctic whales is being waged on two interconnected fronts: the passionate advocacy of activists and the rigorous research of scientists. While their methods may differ, their goal is the same: to ensure a future for these magnificent creatures. Activist groups have been instrumental in bringing the plight of whales to the world's attention. Through direct action on the high seas, public awareness campaigns, and political lobbying, they have created a global movement for whale conservation. They are the frontline defenders, often putting themselves in harm's way to document and disrupt illegal whaling activities, serving as the conscience of a world that has been too slow to act. These activists play a crucial role in holding governments and corporations accountable. By shining a bright light on the dark corners of the whaling industry, they generate public pressure that can lead to real political change. Their images and stories from the Southern Ocean have galvanized millions of people, transforming the abstract concept of whale conservation into a powerful and emotional cause. They challenge the status quo and refuse to accept diplomatic compromises that fail to protect the whales. While their confrontational tactics are sometimes controversial, there is no denying their effectiveness in keeping the issue in the public eye and forcing governments to address it. Working in parallel, the scientific community provides the essential foundation of evidence upon which all effective conservation is built. Scientists, like those on the 2025 expedition, provide the hard data that proves the urgency of the situation. Their meticulous studies on population decline, the impacts of climate change, and the complex social lives of whales give activists the factual ammunition they need to make their case. Science moves beyond emotion to present an undeniable, evidence-based argument for protection. It reveals the intricate connections within the Antarctic ecosystem and quantifies the devastating consequences of our actions, making it impossible for policymakers to ignore the problem. The synergy between these two fronts is vital. Activists amplify the findings of scientists, translating complex data into compelling narratives that resonate with the public and policymakers. In turn, the public support generated by activists can help secure funding and political will for further scientific research. Together, they form a powerful alliance for the oceans. The scientist provides the what and the why, while the activist provides the what now. This partnership is our best hope for bridging the gap between knowledge and action, for turning scientific understanding into meaningful on-the-ground protection for the whales of Antarctica. The silent battle in Antarctica's Blue Heart has reached a critical juncture. The convergence of historical devastation and modern environmental pressures has pushed the whales of the Southern Ocean to a precipice. We stand as the generation that will decide their fate. The evidence is clear, the science is undeniable, and the moral imperative is staring us in the face. We can no longer afford to view Antarctica as a distant, isolated continent, for its destiny is inextricably linked with our own. The time for indecision, political stalemates, and half measures is over. We must now answer the call to action with a collective voice and a unified purpose. This call to action must be directed first and foremost at our global leaders and international bodies. The International Whaling Commission must be strengthened and empowered to close the loopholes that allow whaling to persist. We need to finally establish the South Atlantic Whale Sanctuary and expand marine protected areas throughout the Southern Ocean, creating safe havens where these creatures can recover and thrive without harassment. Most importantly, world governments must take bold and immediate action to combat climate change, the ultimate threat to the Antarctic ecosystem. Reducing our carbon emissions is not just an energy policy, it is a direct intervention to save the whales and the icy world they depend on. Corporations and industries also have a critical role to play. The shipping industry must adopt stricter regulations to reduce underwater noise pollution and prevent ship strikes. The tourism industry, while a powerful force for good, must operate under the highest environmental standards to ensure that whale-watching activities do not harm the very animals they celebrate. We must foster a new global economy, one that recognizes the immense value of a healthy ocean and invests in sustainable practices rather than extractive ones. The choice between economic growth and environmental protection is a false one. Our long-term prosperity depends entirely on a living planet. Ultimately, the power to create change rests with each of us. As individuals, we can make conscious choices to reduce our carbon footprint, support organizations working on the front lines of conservation, and use our voices to demand action from our elected officials. We must become ambassadors for the ocean, sharing the stories of these intelligent, cultured beings and the threats they face. The fate of the Antarctic whales is a test of our wisdom and our compassion. Let us not be the generation that allows their ancient songs to fade into silence. Let us be the generation that listens, that acts, and that secures the future of the blue heart of our planet.